Rocket fire.
What have you seen from the Husky position so far?
Yeah, the Husky position is such a critical spot for us because you're really asking a guy with a dynamic skill set, right, to do a lot of different things. He's got to play man, he's got to play zone, he's got to be able to rush off the edge, he's got to be able to fit in the box from time to time. And so there's a lot of things at play there. But I've been really pleased, with a number of those guys so far. I think Devontae Smith has done a really good job. Red Morgan has really impressed me. I think Red, it's always fun to watch freshmen from where they were in the spring to where they're headed, and that jump that they make in through the summertime. I think he's probably made a huge jump in that regard. And then I've been pleased with some of the things I've seen from Kane Wommack as well. Coming from another institution, learning all the things that he needed to learn. He's really taken that extra step in the summertime here to be able to do that, so that he can go execute at the level that we need him to.
When you have a lot of new guys in the secondary, do you try to cross-train them at Husky or just have them focus on one position?
No, it's a good question. I mean, you nowadays you really see this in the NFL, right? I mean, heck, Brian Branch is a great example of that. I mean, people are really trying to get a nickel, right, a Husky nickel type player, down in and down out, and you almost have to recruit or draft to that position specifically. But I think, same way in the NFL, probably even more so than us, right? You always have to have the next best guy out of that room, right, that can step in anywhere. So if it's at the Husky position, if it's at the rover, safety, field, or boundary, whatever it may be, you've got to have crossover work out of that whole safety room.
You mentioned having maybe 3 starters at the inside linebacker position. Is there any way that you think you could see all 3 of those guys, Lawson, Campbell, and Jefferson, on the field at the same time in packages?
I think there's, I think when you look at that position, right, you've got to find ways to get people like that on the field, right? We have 3 starter type players, right? And so, we're always going to look at packages and ways that we can say, okay, when they come out in this personnel grouping, we'd love to find a way to get these guys out there on the field. We are a 5 defensive back defense, right? And so for us, right, that's not going to change. That's who we are. That's what we're going to do. But at the same time, right, finding creative ways, maybe in some sub packages, to be able to get them out there would be great, and that'd be more of a game plan thing, week to week.
What have you seen out of Quay Russells so far?
I think Quay has taken such a leap from playing, out of high school. We played the inside linebacker position to now, playing the outside linebacker position in a new system this spring. I think he's made a huge jump in just the confidence level that he's playing with right now. And so when you look at him, I just think he's starting to produce and make a lot more plays because he has confidence in what he's doing. Physically, I mean, we use the term freak around here, right? But when you talk about him, I mean, that guy is truly freaky in terms of his strength and athleticism and speed. And so, he is starting to play with that confidence that we need out of that position.
You talk about that summer jump that freshmen can have. How have you seen that from Sabin Brown from spring to now?
Well, Sabin was so impressive to me coming right off the jump. I mean, to walk out of high school early, right, as a mid-year enrollee, and then to be able to play the way that he has been playing from the springtime. What I've been most impressed with him is when he makes a mistake, he gets it corrected, and I can't think of a time where I saw him make the next mistake again, that same mistake, So it's been impressive, the level that he's been able to do with that. Again, I think, I think I'm maybe overusing the word confidence here, but that's really what it comes down to with all these guys, right? Having confidence in our system, having confidence in themselves as a younger player going through spring ball and realizing I can do this at a high level and I can come play here, and I think that's what you're seeing from Sabin.
We saw him do pretty much everything today, but at the club, can he still do team drills and all that?
Yeah, he's limited. He's on a bit of a pitch count and stuff right now, but we expect him to be fully back and going in the next couple of days here. So,
Coach, we all know about the transition from South Alabama here, and of course, when you take a defense coordinator job at Alabama, it's no secret. But since you've been here for months now, what stood out to you that you didn't expect? Is there maybe facility players, people, the fans? What really stood out that now that you're a few months in as a defensive coordinator?
Well, I think I had never spent time in Tuscaloosa. I mean, other than coming in for a game, right, going to the stadium, and unfortunately getting my butt whooped and going home, right? So It'll be nice to be on the other sideline moving forward. But I think the town is beautiful. I didn't realize it, right? All the water that's around here, and you got the river and you got Lake Tuscaloosa. All that stuff is really nice. I think one of the things that I didn't expect and didn't realize is how giving Coach Sabin and how good he's been to me. To have that relationship, to be able to draw things upon his experience, and it has really lessened the learning curve for me. And it was something that I didn't necessarily expect or anticipate, but I've been really appreciative of how open Coach Sabin has been.
How often are you guys talking?
I would say that we've met multiple times in person, and we've talked on the phone a number of times. And so, he's when I call, he answers, which is really awesome. So very appreciative of that.
Hey, Coach, can you express how the defensive lineman Keon Keeley has looked as he's bulked up to 6'5", 277 pounds? And what does that do for the defensive line, just that bulk and having that extra girth up front?
Well, I mean, Keon has a very special skill set. He's very strong at the point of attack. He's very twitchy to be that big. We made that transition from him being an outside linebacker, which when you see his frame at this level and the next level, he most certainly, right, is going to be more of that rush defensive end. Now, we'll still drop those guys from time to time, right? We do different things with them. But at the same time, I think he's been really impressive with just being able to put his hand in the dirt, something that he hasn't really done much. And I think he's taken to that role, and he's learning a ton right now. But you see him taking some steps. I thought another guy that made great steps from the spring this summer.
What have you seen from a guy in Jon Pierre? He came in with Keon and with Quay. How has he kind of progressed since you've been able to work with him?
Yeah, Jon has really worked to change his body. I think that he's putting good mass on right now. We got to continue to get him to do those things. Athletically, he's very fluid, very smooth out of his hips. I think, he can transition and pass rush really well. He can turn the corner really well. I think at the point of attack, he is getting more and more physical. In fact, he made a really great set the edge of the defense today, and the ball bounced outside, and he ripped off and made a play. Those are the things that I'm looking for him to take that next step from a physicality standpoint. Playing that outside linebacker position, sometimes you're really playing a defensive end position. I think he's taken some great steps in that regard.
What has Chuck Morrell brought to the staff, and how's that role change with the on-field staff helped a little bit there?
Yeah, Chuck Morrell has been awesome. I obviously, through my relationship with Kalen over the years, have always known about Chuck and heard about Chuck, but getting to work with him firsthand, he is an absolute pro, a brilliant defensive mind, does a tremendous job with those linebackers. He spends a great bit of the time with those guys, and to me, it has been great. For me, he's been with Kalen for the last 4 years. And so knowing what to expect, how we do things from a schedule standpoint, he's really kind of been my right hand when it comes to all those things. But very glad that he's on the field, very glad for that rule change, because that's allowed us to do some things where he's able to work with the linebackers, hands-on, and allows me to kind of be able to address some of the needs on a macro level with our defense.
And Coach, staying with the linebacker position, can you just express what you've seen out of players like the Jeremiah Alexanders of the world, their development through 5 practices, and just what they're doing so far in their game?
Jeremiah has taken some great steps forward from the springtime. Been pleased with, he really changed his body, lost about 13-14 pounds. He looks good right now. He looks lean, and is starting to kind of understand and grasp what we're trying to do defensively. He can make checks and communication. So I think, here's a guy that was playing outside linebacker that's now moving to inside linebacker, and that takes a little bit of time to transition. But I think he's taking steps in the right direction.
Coach, every coach we've had out here has been pretty optimistic, I would say. And I wonder if there are ever times out there that are frustrating, or not being specific, I don't mean that. But
yes. The answer would be yes. There's always frustrations, right? There's always hardships. There's always, some of that, hard practice that you have to get through. Even just getting through a practice for our players right now. Dave Ballou, Jeff Allen, those guys do a phenomenal job. They're the best in the country at what they do, but they're getting into a practice and learning how to practice, going through 28 periods, whatever it may be, those are hard things to go through, right? So you got to push through some of that adversity. Schematically, our guys are learning things, right? This is a new defense, so they're having to work through those things as well. And don't get it twisted now. I mean, we had two very experienced corners that we just lost, two very experienced pass rushers. I mean, I'm excited about some of the things I'm seeing from our guys, but when the lights come on and the ball gets spotted, you got to show up and produce. And so we're doing everything we can right now to put them in those adverse situations to see if they can respond. Doesn't mean that they're always going to do it right the first time, but can they show that they can respond to that adversity is, to me, the indicator of whether we can trust them on the field or not.
From a personality standpoint, how would you differ from Kalen in terms of maybe just your style as a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, from a coaching perspective,
on the field, like
Kalen, I think probably one of the greatest things about Coach DeBoer is that it's never too high, it's never too low. You know what I mean? In the midst of chaos or adversity, I've been in those moments. I've been in the foxhole with him, and I've seen how his calming presence, right, just really, transcends to the rest of the football team, right? I would be a little bit more the yin to his yang. You know what I mean? If that I'm a little bit more from an energy level standpoint. I'm a yeller out there at practice. I'm gonna demand on a different level, and I think you have to have a great combination. When you think about it from a head coaching perspective, the way you want to build a staff, right, is you don't want all the same person. You don't want yes men. You want people that are complementary to who you are as a head coach, but they also can lean into your vision and they can accomplish your vision through their personality. And I think that's something that, has come very natural for Kalen and I.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.